Let's make 3 different pieces of merch with this one Ikonart stencil. First, I'm going to make a welcome to the cabin sign using the compass. Then I'm going to show you how to screen print merch like this sweatshirt. And then I also used it to wood burn a sign. You could either use this just as a sign that hangs on the wall, or I also thought this would make a really cool sign-in book to have everyone who visits the cabin sign the wood. So let's get into it. So the first project I'm going to make is a chalkboard, and I'm making my own chalk paste by mixing up acrylic paint with Coco's chalky powder. I like doing this just because it thickens up my paint and makes stenciling a lot easier. So I usually mix in about a 1-to-1 ratio, and then I just mix it up, and I can always add more paint or more powder if I wanted a different consistency. But this is looking good. So I'm just going to add my stencil to the chalkboard, and the stencils are repositionable. So I'm just going to move it around until it's about where I want it. And once it looks centered, just making sure with the logo up here that it looks good. Does. All right, so then I'm just going to rub it down, and then I'll add my chalk paste to my stencil in globs, and then I just take my silicone squeegee and squeegee it across. And I'm just kind of gliding across the top. Again, chalk paste is nice and thick, so I don't have to worry too much about bleed. I'm kind of just gliding it across the top of the stencil like I'm buttering bread. And once I have all of my mesh openings covered, I can just remove my stencil, and it holds all those beautiful little details, and that looks great. So now let's just take my stencil to the sink and wash it out. So chalk paste washes out of the stencils really nicely, but I still do like to use a soft bristle brush and warm water. The warm water is going to kind of break down that paint, and the brush just helps it along. I only use the brush on the top side of my stencil. I never use it on the adhesive side of my stencil, and that looks good. So I'm just going to give it a final rinse, and then I can add my backer back to my stencil and dry it. So I always cut a little notch in my stencil. You can also write the word back on your stencil. You just want to return the clear sheet to your stencil in the same way you removed it. So that's why that little notch helps, because then I know which side of that clear sheet to replace the stencil to. So now I'll take it to my dryer and dry that stencil. And while that's drying, I'm just going to add the second part of this sign. So I'm just making sure that first layer is really dry, and then I added the logo in the exact same way I did the bottom part. All right, now I'm going to do a sweatshirt, and in order to do that, I saw Pigskins and Pigtails do this hack where she bought different colored hoodie strings on Amazon, and it comes with this little tool where you just you put the new color back in the hood, restring it or whatever. So I'm going to put a white string in this hoodie. I really like the way this just adds like a little extra detail to the hoodie, and it's super easy to do. So now that I have my white hoodie string on there, I can get my sweatshirt ready to stencil. So I'm just putting the tacky mat inside the sweatshirt, and this just holds my sweatshirt in place and also allows it to, not have the ink seep through the sweatshirt or t-shirt or whatever you're stenciling. Get those strings out of the way, and then I like to use one of these little guides that helps me center my design on my sweatshirt and also kind of gives me an idea of the distance to do the stencil from the neck. All right, I'm using Speedball fabric ink, and then I'm just going to place my stencil on my sweatshirt. And I'm pretty much stenciling in the same way as I did on the chalkboard. It's just fabric paint or fabric ink and a sweatshirt instead of, chalk paint and a chalkboard. But the method is the same. I'm gliding my squeegee across the top of my stencil like I'm buttering bread, making sure to get paint ink in all of those openings. That looks great. And again, I'm going to wash my stencil. Speedball fabric ink comes off stencils really easy. And while that stencil dries, I just wanted to show you, or remind you, I should say, to not forget to heat set your ink. So once that dries, make sure you heat set it. All right, the next project is a wood burned sign. So of course I'm using torch paste. And torch paste is also nice and thick, so I don't have to worry about bleed too much. This is a really nice smooth board. If you're working with a board that isn't as smooth, then maybe you want to sand it.
You also don't really want to work with treated wood. But other than that, again, the process is basically the same. I'm just squeegeeing my torch paste across my stencil, making sure to get it in all my openings. And then with torch paste, you really only want to leave a really thin layer of torch paste behind. You don't want a really thick layer left on the wood. That'll take way too long to wood burn. So I'm scraping off all my extra torch paste here and just putting it right back in that container. Getting it off the side right there. And then I'm ready to remove my stencil. And that looks great. All right, and then I'm just going to wash out my stencil, and torch paste again washes off the Ikonart stencils really nicely. Put my backer back on my stencil the same way as before. And now I can just keep reusing this stencil over and over for other projects or other merch or whatever I would want to make, for my business. Quickly, I'll speed through this part. I'm just adding a little quote below the compass that I want woodburned on the sign as well. That looks great. And now let's wood burn. So we use an 1800 watt heat gun on its max heat setting. And this does take a while. It really depends on the type of wood you have as well as your heat gun. So this one took quite a while. This wood did not burn very quickly at all, but it is still super satisfying to watch it burn like this. This is a time lapse video, so obviously it is sped up, but it's just so satisfying to watch that paste turn into, like the wood burned wood. And it really does give it a nice look. I just love how this looks and how it turned out.
So those are 3 different ways to use the same exact Ikonart stencil 3 different ways. My name is Fawn and I share tips and tricks on how to make and use Ikonart stencils. If you want a more in-depth tutorial on how to make Ikonart stencils, head to this video right here. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button and click the notification bell so you get notified every time we upload.